spiritual explanation of the times. And that is the rationale for exposing him to the underworld sense. But the scenes that we read about are local. But then
this is an HB charcoal powder. This is what I used as base tone. So this is basically a light powder, light tone charcoal powder.
Lucky that he asked me to, that he wanted to do revisions, and he asked me to write the revisions. Because he could have done it by himself, or he could have asked someone to do it. But I knew if I, at that time, I wanted to break into filmmaking, that I should be open to learn. Hindi pwedeng, matigas ako na hindi pwedeng, hindi pwedeng na script. Yeah. I adjusted to it, and I did revisions. And I wanted the film to be done. Right? Kasi kung hindi nag-intindi na sa revisions, he might have backed out, or he might have not continued with the project, or he might have asked someone else to do it.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
Did you do the
Maida was the answer.
Because the original one was the
Sama niya po So, said that he was really into, filmmaking in the industry. So he knew what would work and what would be interesting to do. And he said that if people talk about the film, sa mga kung sasabihin nila, may napanood mo na ito sa mga kung medyo mahaba. Medyo mahaba sa mga ilang seconds. I think the title should be shorter. And then he suggested and then subtitle because we also wanted to show the audience that the film was based in the novel. So that people who talk about it, you see maybe, it's a nice revision to it, or suggestion to what to do. When you should take it from.
Hello everyone. Hello Ralph. Hello Pico Drawings. You're doing good. Thank you. This is a graphite pencil drawing, but I decided to put a light charcoal powder base before I layer the actual graphite pencils.
I'm sure people it's the first to deal with that subject. But I could not record. I'm not sure even the 50s films also people coming to Manila and experiencing the life of the city, the problems, the issues of the world. And what attracted me to the material is its social commentary. The issues that plague the country and affect other people. So, when I wrote the adaptation, it was 69, 70, so that's the years before Marshall, and students like us were beginning to be aware of what's to be socially aware. So that's why the novel resonated with me. That's why I was interested in this book. One specific addition in the film that I did, in the adaptation, It is the demonstration. There's a demonstration in the
Sirema, do you have with on the photo also? Yes, yes, I do.
Para po sa mga babangitin na pangalan, mangyaring magpunta po kayo rito sa ating barangay para kuhanin ang inyong solo parent ID. James A. Carolan, Madeline A. Luego,
students, workers,
Jagundina L. Agustin,
the fashion, etc. And the
Elaine G. Doctorero, Teresa G. Javier, Evangelina D. Soria, Julita T. Agustin, Emelanda G. Agustin, Lisa L. Aguilar, Wilma D. Castillo, Julian E. De La Cruz. Para po sa nabanggit na mga pangalan, pupunta po kayo rito sa ating barangay para kuhanin ng solo parent ID. Julian E. De La Cruz, Wilma G. Castillo, Lisa L. Aguilar, Emelanda D. Agustin, Julita B. Agustin, Evangelina D. Soria, Teresa D. Javier, Elaine D. Doctorero, Madeline A. Luego, at Jane A. Carolan.
so 1970,
Maraming salamat po.
1948. So,
And Edgardo Reyes wrote it in the 60s.
the late 60s or late 60s.
This is already under President Marcos.
In fact, I volunteered to do behind the scenes, to shoot behind the scenes. So then there's a short documentary.
Oh, it's
You might want to watch it. But
Yes, please.
about the making of Manila. Because I really wanted to be there and to see what they were going to do with the material.
your material. It was the first time that your script is made into a movie.
Yeah. So I volunteered to shoot 16mm camera. So I was there. I knew it would be a good film. Because the performers, they're sila Beto Ropo, beautiful good actors. And I saw that they were doing well during the shoot.
So what were you doing? What was your role in the team when you were there? What were your tasks?
Shooting behind the scenes.
You were shooting with your own camera.
Well, my parents.
Mike. That was Mike was the cinematographer.
Yeah. That's what I saw. He was the cinematographer. The DOD. He had the camera operator. But he let in his camera to shoot the
And you still have that.
yeah. It's part of the DVD that released by Criterion.
The criteria.
Other features. In the screenplay, I specified the places.
I studied at the places.
Yeah, where the scenes should happen. So they visited some of these places and maybe they did some changes. And, yeah, I was with the group for most of the time. When I was writing the adaptation, I visited some of the places that was described in the novel. So that I would see where the scenes are happening. In fact, I was criticized for that.
Yes.
when some people learn about the changes that happen in the adaptation, and I wrote about the making of the, and I mentioned that I went around to check the places, and I was criticized for being a tourist in my own city.
Pero wala pa pa. Where was the construction site? It was
The construction site, it's in Quezon City. I think it's the present. Is there an NDI building there? National Bureau of Investigation in Quezon City. Anyway, that's the building.
okay.
It was being constructed at that time. I remember the premiere screening. We had the premiere screening. I don't remember exactly the theater, but it's one theater in Manila. And my father watched it. Of course, he liked the film. But he said that the demonstration scene was not necessary. My father was against demonstrators.
But it made big stars of
Well, it's interesting how Lino did the hotel scene. Originally, in the novel, the encounter between Julio and Ligaya, it happens in a restaurant. Okay, so the entire thing happens in the restaurant. They talk and exchange stories about what happened in the restaurant, in Chinatown restaurant. And in the adaptation, I first did the encounter in Santa Cruz Church.
Yes.
Then after Santa Cruz Church, they went to a movie house.
Yes.
And then from the movie house, this is Lino's take on the major sequence. So from Santa Cruz Church, they moved to the theater, the movie house, and from the movie house, they moved to the theater.
Yes.
So the location, the choice of the hotel scene.
Hello, Chuck. Hello. Anju, kuya, ano suggest ko paano magsimula sa grid method?
Located
Medyo maliliit lang muna sa simula. Kasi itong gamit ko sa paper is 1 inch. Make it half inch sa paper. Tapos, kailangan mo kasi makita yung proportion ng reference photo sa paper. So, yung liitan mo lang doon sa reference, ito yung yung normal method, yung pangmatanda. Kasi yung mga bata ngayon puro mga mga grade up yung ginagamit. So ako yung traditional, may printed reference, tapos lalagyan mo ng grade yung reference, lalagyan din ng grade yung paper. So kung gaano yung bilang nung square sa reference, dapat ganun din yung bilang sa paper, pero mas lalakihan mo siya.
And he transpose the dialogue to the movies. The entire dialogue was in the screen.
I like the screenplay because of the nuances of the characters. There is a character there who likes to sing in the construction site. There's a happy-go-lucky Filipino. There's a
That's in those characters are
in this archetypes.
the construction workers, the friends. There are commentaries about that. But one major commentary that that was important in my life was the reaction from the Chinese community. That there is the we my friend who was connected with this Chinese community, and he said the film destroyed what they worked for. Because the film doesn't create a good image of the Chinese in the city. And then Nino's answer was the truth hurts. And it was not meant to give a general, impression or general representation of the Filipino Chinese. The actor is a character in a specific individual. He's not meant to represent.
Hindi ka naman po nalilito since wala pong grid yung reference photo niyo po. Hindi, meron yung original na may grid. Pero pag kinokopya ko na siya, ayoko na nung may grid yung photo. Pero nung inaano ko siya, yung dito, tinatransfer sa paper, meron akong photo na with grid.
Yeah.
Ito para ano lang to, pinrint ko lang ng maliit para nakikita lang ng audience yung picture. Pero hindi ito yung reference photo.
It would still be
Meron akong mas malaki pa.
but people would, I think would be more open to it or would understand that Antek is an individual character. It's not meant to generalize, that this is how all the Chinese, Pinoy Chinese,
Looking at
kasi hindi na maganda yung image talaga. Kasi there's a restaurant scene, when Fuyo is waiting for what happens across the street. And there is this Chinaman, slapping the waitress. Not that good.
those are already Venus tradition during the shoot. Yung mga ganon.
During the shoot. It's in the screenplay, but the how it is performed, of course, it's
Andrew, anong pencil gamit nyo? Let me guess po, Cretacolor Nero. Hindi. Pure graphite yung gamit ko. Actually, ito lang yung gamit ko. Bukod dun sa powder na charcoal na HB, ang mga gamit ko ay pinaka-dark na gamit ko ito, yung 8B ng Staedtler Mars Lumograph na black na graphite. Tapos, second darkest ko is yung regular graphite pero ang brand niya ay Carandash Graphwood na 9B. 9B to pero mas lighter ito dito sa 8B ng black Mars Lumograph. This is very dark. Tapos, ang gamit ko lang na susunod, pang mid-tone ko dito is itong 4B ng Mitsubishi Hayuni. Tapos, ang aking light to mid shadow ay ang B. So, ito lang, apat lang. Apat lang yung plano kong gamitin. Gusto ko kasing itry. Unang-una, with this portrait, I want to try, the goal of this portrait is to try if you can create a complete portrait by just using 4 grades of graphite pencil. That's the first goal. Second goal is if the powdered base tone charcoal powder, HB powder, can prevent the shine or the bloom from the graphite. So that is the second goal of this portrait, to create a complete portrait by just using basically just 4 graphite and the base tone of a light charcoal powder to prevent, hopefully it can prevent yung the bloom or the shine of the graphite. Sorry if I answered in English because I want the future viewers from other countries to understand what I'm saying.
The concerns that was written in the book about the city, the bars, the hapless ones. Because it's still there. In our city today.
Unfortunately, unfortunately. I hope there are bigger problems.
So I was thinking of putting a very dark shadow here using 9B graphite, but I want to start with the 4B because I don't want to over darken this, like, because the light seem to come from here, so the contrast is very high with the photo. As you can see, there's really nice highlights from the right and then dark here, so I don't want to make it too dark. I just want it to make it dark enough just to show the highlights.
Yeah, the problem basically is still and what's unfortunate. So the films that we do,
So this is the difference between the shade of graphite. So this is the 9B graphite. I layered here under on the neck, under the chin, here on the jawline, and here on the neck. So that's how dark it can be. But for the face, the shadows here are not as dark as the 9B. So I am gonna use the 4B instead of the 9B because this is how dark the 9B can be for the skin tone. Now first I want to blend it.
He had other writers. Si Philippines, it's about so, well, we didn't have a chance to either it was his decision. I don't know. But, my other films or screenplays were done by Michael and Hilkertus. So actually I only worked with those three directors. So Mike, and him. And after the shoot, we visited schools to entice them, to encourage them to watch the film. And we showed the behind the scenes of documentary. And we talked about the making of the film. There's one interesting event that happened. I think it happened during our trip to the north. And there was a typhoon, so we were stranded somewhere. And then the next day, we reached the school. And the students were a bit noisy, like the usual behavior of the students. And Lino just flared up, and got mad and scolded them, and said that he almost died coming here. Siya kinalayan niya na yun. Ganun pa pwede si Lino.
One of the few times you saw him get mad.
Yeah, pero exaggerated pa yung story.
Because Nino had also has from a theater background.
Yeah. Yes, a beta. Yeah. Like the
As in like, what's the
yeah. So he established the company together with his relatives. Actually, he was the producer, the active producer on the set.
And why did Nino produce this? Because he was the Maslov production company.
And he was on cinema division. That's his own production company. So they produced the television company. Portal.
Andrew, what gray po pwede gamitin sa mid-tone? Pwedeng pwede ka magsimula sa HB hanggang 3B. Pinaka-usual yung nasa gitna, yung B. Depende kasi sa reference Depende sa darkness ng shadow ng reference. Pero usually, kapag mga regular portraits, B ang ginagamit ko.
Also because I knew you.
Kapag light lang yung skin tone, HB yung ginagamit.
So you know that we hired as a director, right, for
So si Mike was a senior in Manila as a junior. So 1 year ahead siya. Because Maynila presents some issues and there's a suggestion that the situation has to be changed. Right? But in Bernal's Manila by night, you just live with it, you enjoy it, right? Kaya, marijuana dito, kaya with life at night. The idea of Bernal's Manila is that we just live and we enjoy it. We fight it, we change it. So it's a major difference.
That's an interesting analogy with both of them.
Yeah.
So Bernal was more existentialist.
So was really a happiness. And he lived it. Because he was not just doing it for a show, I guess. And he joined demonstration. So I wish the films today done by the younger filmmakers, the independent filmmakers especially, they will not just be interested in showing their films in festivals.
Zach Walker. Hello, Zach Walker.
Karamihan ng gold o gagawa sila sa pelikula and then they go to the festival circuit and they attend the festival punta sila doon. It's good to be recognized by these festivals and foreign critics, but maybe they should not lose sight of what they are really supposed to do. And they should not lose sight of the role of film in society, what it can do. And I'm sure some of them are doing it. Like the documentaries done by Dizzy Carolino, they are really socially development. And they're important works. So they have to look beyond the festivals, different festivals, and look more closely at how people watch their films. I mean, we are Filipino filmmakers and we do our films for our
Hannah, hey, excellent. Thank you.
Yes. If the foreign audiences love our film, then fine. Like, they may not be our primary. But Lino and Ishmael worked within the industry. So at that time in the 70s, the would-be filmmakers did not have any choice but to break into the industry. So we had to break into the industry if we wanted to do films. Making films outside of the industry was not the usual way. It was only Kidlataylik and a few indie filmmakers who were able to do it. Kasi meron silang access sa camera.
Josepher Net Knitting Hook and Needles. Thank you.
Money to do films, right? And they didn't want to join the industry. So they had to do their own films outside the industry. And there were very few of them in the 70s. Kita tayo hindi ko one that comes to mind. Lalo na ng 60s na squad people. So, those of us who wanted to do films, we had to break the industry. And we paved the way for the new generation of filmmakers in the 70s to be able to work in the industry. So simula sila noong 1970, they established their names, kumuha sila ng mga writers and production designers. Yung before the 70s, yung mga production designers, hindi na uso yan. Kasi 1970, bomba films. Hindi na kailangan hindi na kailangan ng costumes, right? Nandun lang sila sa hotels and Dead Sea. And there was no need for production designers. New cinematographers around the 60s, editors, but in the 70s, with Lino and Shina, they took new filmmakers, new people, new blood to make films. And so they paved that way to these new breed of filmmakers, new generation of filmmakers in the 70s. So yung mga writers, cinematographers, mga writers, Ito Kaba, si Kiki, si Bawal Iglesias, si Sharisa, sila Marido, sila and other writers and then mga editors din, sila Jess Navarro, sila Mike Canalego, and then cinematographers, sila Tony Lapa, and music composers.
Hiseigo, what's up? Hello, Hiseigo.
It was an accident. Of course, it was not very sad. And actually, it marked the end of an era. Because the our generation of filmmakers, the Lino and Ishmael Baker film, it happened in 1970 and continued up to the 80s. Kasama ni Jan sila, Michael Leonor, si Penny Taglianda, si Mario Diaz-Ibanez, Mario Ortega, Luis Guillen in the 1980s sila, Mario Luis 1980s pumasok. And then after martial law, when Paul Aquino took over in 1986, unfortunately, the country was beset with major economic problems. You know that film did not develop much during those years, and so in the 90s, about that time, Mike DeLeon practically stopped filmmaking. Mario Diaz moved to television, doing television work. Luis Guillen was busy with her Marian devotion. And so when Lino died, it was about the end of the generation of filmmakers. And a new generation was taking over, more active in the industry. Sila Joe Alaman, sila Joe Reyes, Jim Delonte. So then Ishmael also died not long after Lino died. So, of course, some of us continued working in film. Even, but yung generation na yun, pamamayagpag ng generation na yun, patapos na ng late 80s and 90s, early 80s.
Were you part of the movie?
Yeah. When was it? Late 70s. Up to early 80s. Kasi when I did more films in the industry, I thought there was already a conflict of interest. Being part of the critics group and then also doing films, so I stopped from being a member in the 80s.
But I remember
Early 80s.
the movie was highly regarded, especially when it began.
Yeah, at that time. Ngayon ko. Yeah, serious critical studies of films. I think that they have a place in developing the film culture of the country. Yeah. So, we need to have more of these serious critical studies. But the problem is we don't have much of these going on. Because basically it's difficult to get hold of the films. They're not readily available. We don't have a working national film archive. ABS is a good archive. It has its good production, and it's a nice place to go if you need to do some serious study of film. But you have to have some connection there. Of course, they're open to researchers. But they don't have the entire, it's not a national collection, right? So we need a national film academy. And the film development council is working on it. And hopefully they're going to see it through and really have a working national film academy. But it's difficult to sell the idea to, let's say, to politicians, you know, who want to be set in types of political, economic, social problems. How do you set the idea that a film or a guy is important and that we should have saved the bomb of films? We should save the rom-coms that have been done and we should archive them. How do you set the idea? They should just sit down and write. Because that's the best way to break into the industry by writing, whether for television or for film or for the multimedia. Because we need good writers. We need good writers. There's always a need for them. There are many writers, but we need good writers. Okay. So, yeah, there are lots of young filmmakers who want to direct, right? But not many of them can write. So they need still writers to work with them, to collaborate. That's a good way to break into filmmaking. And I'm interested in developing writers from different social or economic strata, especially those coming from the lower economic class. Because they are, in my view, they're the ones who can tell their stories better. Because they're experienced. The television writers and movie writers can do these materials. So we should develop these writers coming from the different social economic classes. I'm sure many young ones today have not seen the film, so they should try to catch a glimpse of it, watch it, and give it a chance. It may not be too enjoyable for them. But they should watch it maybe in the context of the 70s, right? At that time, the industry was not exactly high up there. The industry was in the pits, in the 60s especially, and then in 1970. That's why the new generation of filmmakers came in with this big ambition to do good films. And we were just part of that development. So you don't have to show. It's just to do good films. Well, today the young filmmakers should also have that I guess they also. And then they're more aware of what's happening in the film world. They have access to all these films, right, on the internet. So that they should be more aware of what these good films are, and at the same time still be original, and be relevant to our society.
that Lino Broca, it's together with Susan Rose.
It's quite interesting to look back and then realize that I was a very lucky young film student back in the 1980s because I actually met both Nina Broca and Ishmael Bernard, and not only just met them, they become a close acquaintance. We were together in international film festivals, in forums, in panels, in outreach programs. But previous to that, I was this, young, starting out filmmaker doing short films. And I was lucky to listen to them. They would give lectures, they would give their time to do talks in the film workshops, in the seminars that would be held in the UP Film Center. Eventually, other institutions like the Cultural Center, the outreach programs. So I was lucky enough to have listened to them very early on. And then eventually, the Alina Broca was very supportive of the young filmmakers. And in fact, I have to say, he actually gave me my break to attend the very first International Film Festival, where my short films were screened as a program. It was in 1986, when after the EDSA revolution, Lino was very, very busy because he had been invited to be part of the Constitutional Commission in drafting the revised Constitution. And so he was being invited to the Edinburgh Film Festival, one of the oldest international film festivals. And he couldn't attend it, so he told the film programmer, the British film programmer, told me, why don't you invite these new young filmmakers instead of me? And then he mentioned me because I didn't know him yet, but he mentioned me because he had read about my short films in the UP Film Center. And he took me names, went to the American Film Institute and saw all the short films there and decided to program them. So in a sense, Lino gave me my first break to attend the first international festival. Eventually later that year, it was quite an opportunity. I was invited to the Hawaii Film Festival. And in that same festival, Lino Broca and even Eddie Romero was attending the festival. And so we were like 3 generations representing the Philippines back then. Eddie Romero, as though he were my grandfather, and then Lino Broca, and then my generation of young short filmmakers. To me, that was very, very memorable event. I attended it early that year. I attended the Edinburgh Film Festival, and so it was. I was very grateful to him because he wasn't busy with the Constitutional Commission. I may not have been invited that year. So it was a very enriching experience because it happens at the same time as the Arts Festival, which is what it's really known for. At the Edinburgh Film Festival, I showed the whole program of my Super 8 short films, about 5 of them. So by that time, I was sort of gaining recognition already for the short films I was making globally through the local film competitions and short film festivals. And so that marked my first time to be able to show it to an international audience. They were like short talks, so we as Filipino filmmakers would sit in the panel, and then I was also so nervous because Lino Broca, I think for the first time was watching my short film, so he attended my short film screenings there. And he was even with other international film programmers, so during that time, because there was no internet, there was no social media, there was no easy way to promote your films and promote yourself as a filmmaker. And the only way was to be seen in these events. And so it becomes a chain reaction. So with Nino recommending me and with other film programmers seeing the films, one thing would lead to another. And so I found myself traveling to many other international festivals after that. I can't quite recall now how he reacted, but he did say he enjoyed the films. That's how I just remember after the screening. And as I said, I really felt nervous because, you know, I already looked up to Broga then. We've always made these films as our study in the film workshops. I was attending as a student in the film workshops, and then of course I celebrated. In fact, I was sitting with piano shop, film programmer for the Cannes Film Festival back in the 70s, and he was very responsible for bringing Nino's cinema to Cannes. And they were sitting in the audience of that screening in 1986. So that really made me have a cold feet. But yeah, they seemed to have enjoyed, you know, they saw it as a form of its own. You know, the short films need to be seen as a different form of cinema, as opposed to what is considered official cinema, which is the mainstream cinema. Actually, Eddie Romero himself also mentioned that. I think that was one of his very gracious comments. Saying the young filmmakers are clearly that has never been touched by other filmmakers in the Philippine scene. So we felt that experimental cinema, short film, should flourish, and that this would be the future of cinema. And so as of course, the independent cinema, blurring the lines needs to be, because of the whole other book, we see that the origins, really had its beginnings in the short form. And so there is the support of filmmakers like Schwarber, and you remember this very important. We felt so small. Here I was, this young, short filmmaker with these very modestly produced, low-budget short films, shot on a very low-end format, Super 8, when I was testing things today. That was our digital. It was the only way to make the films. And yet at the same time I was very proud because I was sitting there in the panel amongst these giants, Eddie Romero, and basically representing Philippine cinema as a whole. So for me that was groundbreaking because it was recognizing your contribution, at the beginnings of our contribution to the short film and the independent underground to be part of cinema as a whole. Definitely, I would say, was very generous. He was very supportive and helpful to other filmmakers. He really supported the movement of independent film. He was close ally with the University of the Philippines Film Center. Having to be involved in seminars and workshops. And just that on that personal level, I was very grateful to have recognized that, and particularly mentioned Big Tim, Tony Raines, the British film, I think it was programmed on the local article. Even though it was not one of our inspirations, you can call our generation a movement on its own, because I do call it as a legitimate movement. It was a movement of filmmakers who did not necessarily want to be a major part of the industry. Not to say that it was against that industry, but basically trying to make a cinema on its own. And I think the key word wasn't really independent. Independence was something.
MDBSMM. Wow, nice art. Thank you, thank you.
The key word really was alternative. We were creating an alternative cinema. And I always believe that our inspirations from the mainstream, like Bishop International, like De Leon, and the drama of the 70s, they were legit independent filmmakers. That's exactly what they were trying to do with the 70s. They were finding other ways and other means to produce their own films within the system, within the industry. Whereas our generation was inspired by them, thought we would do our own cinema underground or outside of that, so that it can actually coexist. That's why I always say alternative is the key word. Yeah, actually, especially after the trip in Hawaii, he became kind of like a friend. He was always be supportive in our projects. I was at the World Film Institute. We would show his films at the small festivals in the organize. I even got to visit him in his house whenever he had these international book programmers as guests. So I was quite privileged that I got to chat with the Nemo Bookman in those early years. And it was really very sad and tragic when I was shooting my first full-length film in 1991. I was in production for Bayani, which was my first long film, when we heard about Dino's accident. So that was an unforgettable time, because there wasn't. I wish you could have seen the first film. So those were really critical times for cinema, because the beginnings of independent and alternative cinema were just starting to get off the ground and starting to get the recognition that it deserved. Fast forward to today, it's the norm now. It's highly recognized, and as I say, the lines are blurred. The demarcation between what is mainstream and what is independent. And because of the different alternative means of distribution, it's practically really consolidated dollars. And back then, it was a real struggle because of people. And the struggle was for decades. So I always say the struggle really began with that movement of filmmakers like Irishman, and many others in the 70s that we were referred to by film historians and critics as the Filipino wave. And there was a golden age in the 1950s where cinema, which is the mainstream commercial industry, the 70s are what they call the new wave, where the filmmakers were really bound to do work through alternative and independent means. Basically creating cinema which will otherwise not have been produced by big commercial studios. It was just very friendly, you'd have coffee. This was mostly because somebody would be visiting, like a film programmer or a critic that we both knew, because I had that lucky opportunity to travel to several international festivals in the 80s. So I was international guest, and he would call me. We had a couple of times invited me to lunch or dinner at his house with these guests. Or we would go out to a restaurant. So it was strange in a way. Lino was not yet a national artist. You looked up to him. He was a highly celebrated Filipino filmmaker. It was very unusual. It was not that common yet to hear a Filipino film in an international festival. There were other directors, of course, going to festivals, but it's not as common as today. or you can almost hear about the Filipino, young Filipino filmmaker winning an award in some festival in some part of the world. Back then, it was very few and far apart. And Lino, of course, made that major mark because he was the very first Filipino to go to the festival in exhibition and competition, followed by Macmillan eventually. At the same time, I had already encountered and met Ishmael Bernal, who was also going to international festivals like Berlin and so on. So in a similar fashion, I was very lucky to have met Ishmael Bernal. Even just right after my very first short film, when I made my short film in 1983 for the UP Film Center Cinema as Art Workshop, I was invited to his house for a special dinner with the Mamanui, and that made me really very nervous with my very first short film. They wanted to see me. They wanted a kind of like a private viewing. Ishmael Bernal is closely collaborating with the University of the Philippines Film Center. This is the activities with the documentary Filipino as early as the 70s. So because of that close ties, he's probably heard about my film winning in the short film competition. And the title was Naman Pakailanman. It was a 25-minute experimental silent film. And it was probably heard a lot about it. There were some reviews that have come out. I believe one of the members back then, Greg Newsom, was in the jury that gave the award to that film. And he may have spoken about it. And then there was also Mario Hernando, who had met with early on back then. He may have spoken about it. And then there was also Mario Hernando, who had met with early on back then. He was quite impressed by the short film. So in fact, he was quite responsible in making that invitation for me to attend it, because at the same time, Ishmael Bernal was very curious to see my film because he did not have an opportunity to attend the short film screenings. So I had that very special evening of I brought the Super 8 projector and screened my very first film to Ishmael Bernal at his home with the watching. So it was an incredible experience for an 18-year-old filmmaker. I was 18 now. Ishmael Bernal's films were also part of our study in the film workshops. Manila by Night was a study for us in deconstructing it and discussing it in the workshops and discussing our film elements. At the same time with other foreign films, Citizen Kane, all this usual fare that was required for students. So it was a very enriching experience to be in the workshop. But that evening with Ishmael Bernal and the Mamanui was absolutely unforgettable. It was things that were aspiring for me. They enjoyed that there was even a Q&A after. They were asking me questions. How do I conceptualize it? What else did I plan? Or other details that I wanted to do that I wasn't able to do. I'm sure they were very kind. So I had the opportunity to have a Q&A with distinguished cinema people with very early stage. That really was a baptism of fire in a sense, because I was so rattled and nervous about that. But at the same time, I really felt proud about it. Just like, Ishmael Bernal was very did, and then different projects with the folks that were also when there were outreach programs and stuff. Particularly, I remember going to outreach screenings and talks with people in the very late 80s. Outreach programs with the CCP, we already started showing our films and also doing small seminars for students in the regions. I believe when I come to I attended with and then Ishmael Bernardo would do talks also at the Olifant Film Institute where I already had begun working as a workshop coordinator later. So we were really planting the seeds for independent cinema. So there was with my early body of short films already inspiring these younger workshop attendees. But at the same time, we had these giants, despite their backing us up and supporting these activities. There was a time when the movie industry was really beginning to recognize that there was something significant happening in this so-called underground or independent or alternative cinema. At the very